There's been a lot of talk about Hero these past few months. A lot of it has been bad talk. Talk for less than reputable reasons. And at the center of that controversy is the language barrier that's associated with Hero, is down B, because of international players who aren't able to compete on an even footing with Hero players because they aren't able to understand the spells on the menu and react in time. So that's why I'm making this video, not only to present my own argument in the matter, but also to provide resources for people who travel internationally and show that it's something that can be done, learning the spells in a new language. It's actually a pretty streamlined and simple process. It just takes a little bit of time. I was able to do it in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes per language. Oh, I said per language, we'll get into that. So let's just get started and explore this whole language barrier thing together. And I promise I'm gonna represent my boy well. So enjoy the video.
You gotta do what?
I gotta believe!
Before we begin talking about the language part of the conversation, let's first talk about the general counterplay to Hero's menu. Now say we're playing a game and we're playing against Hero and he pulls up menu. Imagine that the menu isn't visible. The counterplay still remains the same. The only moves that we have to worry about defending ourselves from are the moves that can hit us. So that includes his projectile spells like Sizzle, Sizz, Bang, Kaboom, Thwack, Whack, and Snooze. There are 5 other moves that can hit close to Hero, which are Flame Slash, Crackle Slash, Magic Burst, Kamikaze, and Hatchet Man. These are the only moves that deal damage, so we don't have to worry about any other moves in neutral. Those are the only moves that we have to actually react to. The rest aren't immediate threats. They either don't deal damage at all or they're completely negligible. None of his other menu spells are threats right away, so we don't have to worry about defending ourselves from them, especially if we're far enough away. Now for the attacking spells that we do have to worry about. They all have the same type of counterplay. We can shield every single one of them, even the more dangerous spells, Magic Burst and Thwack. You can't shield Kamikaze or Hatchet Man safely, but you do have more than enough time to react to them with the proper defensive options. We have the option to shield, we have the option to jump over these spells since they all go in a straight line, and on top of that we have the option to just interrupt Hero before he can select a spell at all. So regardless of what the menu says, the process of avoiding these attacks stays the same. You might be thinking, how does this even relate to the language barrier issue, dude? Well, you'd be in luck because it relates to my first point, which is that the game plan does not change against Hero's menu regardless of what language you're playing in. The thing is, you know for a fact that all these spells are going to be the same across every game's language. Playing in the different languages does not change the way that these spells function and the way that you're supposed to play against them as an opponent versus a Hero player. Even if Hero's a dumb RNG character, and even if his spells can be completely different every time you use down B, the spells still have the same counterplay regardless of what language you're playing in. In a tournament environment, a competitive environment, you're still being tested not on just your ability to learn a new language. No, you're being tested on your ability to apply the proper counterplay to Hero when he uses his menu. And we've gone over the counterplay for every single one of these spells, and anyone can apply that in any language. To apply the counterplay, you have to be able to see what Hero is going to use. And that starts with knowing the names of the spells in that language. So, point number 2. Learning the spells in a new language is actually a very simple task, a lot simpler than you might think. And I'm going to explain why. Let's break it down. There are 21 spells total, but in actuality you don't have to worry about 9 of those spells. Only 12 of them are real attack spells that you have to be able to defend against when you're playing against Hero. So if you're doing a new language and you're trying to figure out what exactly you need to do to play against Hero in that language, you can just cut out 9 of these spells and learn the other 12. Oomph, Psych Up, Accelerate, Heal, and Bounce, those are all boost spells. They aren't actual attacks, so you don't have to worry about getting hit by them. The Clang and Metal Slash are useless. Hocus Pocus is already completely random, and neither player knows what it's going to be. And Zoom is a reactable recovery move that you don't have to read on the menu. If Hero's off stage over here, then he's got 2 options. 1, use Zoom, or 2, up B. If he opens menu, you know he's going to zoom. You can react and then get in a position while you're on stage to catch his landing. If he doesn't open menu, you know he's going to try and up B. So it's reactable. After you trim the fat, you're left with only 12 spells instead of a whole 21 spells that you need to learn in a new language if you're going to compete internationally. Banning Hero because of the language barrier that's easily surmountable with just a little bit of time and diligence is more harmful than good, because you're banning a character that people can use for certain matchups and whatnot just because you think that this is not something that players can adapt to and overcome if they want to travel internationally and compete internationally if they're playing against heroes. Raito, for example, he lost to Salem, who was using Hero at a PGR event called Main Stage just a little while ago. And he admitted after the set that he did not know the spells in English well at all. And not knowing the spells in English did put him at a disadvantage, but he did think that he had the ability to improve in the matchup by learning it in English. And this ended up coming in handy when he did play Salem again at another event, Thunder Smash 3.
ここの大会に来る前にイングリッシュヒーローを使ってその対策を結構してきたのでメインは読めました。
なるほどなるほど。He's been practicing in the American version of Smash, so he's been able to read it, learn the language, and know the moveset.
And evidently, he uses the menu reading to defend against Salem's attacks. He runs up and shields a Magic Burst when he sees the Magic Burst at the top of the menu. He sees a top deck Kaboom and jumps over on reaction. And there was even a point in time when he saw that Salem's menu had no attacks that could immediately hit above, so he dropped down aggressively with a forward air. Now, in an ideal world, the language thing wouldn't even be a problem. People would just be able to see all the spells immediately because Nintendo smartly color-coded the spells and put little images next to the spell so that way you know what every single spell is going to be without having to see the word in a different language and all that. But unfortunately, it's not like that. But the good thing is, like I mentioned throughout this video, the workarounds are there, they're accessible, and the people who travel internationally to compete or play in different languages in countries where the language is going to be English or Japanese, Spanish, Italian, German, whatever the case, they're able to adapt to those things, make the changes, and with a pretty small amount of effort, and then they'll be able to play against heroes, or even play as hero. Because I've seen some people say, these hero players think it's so easy to learn the language, then they should be able to do it too. So they should learn the language themselves if they want to play against people internationally.
Okay.
What you're seeing here is gameplay footage of me playing on Elite Smash. I played online matches against players who had their own system set to their native languages while I was changing the system on purpose to a language that I had little experience going into, but I had practiced it in training mode. I did this to simulate the experience of somebody who plays Hero and travels internationally and they has to learn the language of the country that it's taking place in order to be able to use the character there. And originally I just did this to see how hard it would be for somebody to learn the language, but I ended up finding that it was surprisingly simple. It didn't take that much time. I started out learning Japanese spells, and then it only took me like 30 to 45 minutes to do that. And that's mainly because the characters were so weird to me. I never had any experience with katakana or anything like that. However, with German and French, after I got the hang of learning it in Japanese, it was pretty simple. It only took me about 10 to 15 minutes for each of those. So it really didn't take that much time. It was just a matter of going into training mode, playing at the computer, and just being able to recognize the spells, getting used to the spells, and just trying to draw a connection between the name of the spell and when I would use that name for a certain situation. For example, like recognizing when you would want to use the German version of kaboom instead of using the German version of flame slash if you're trying to use a projectile to hit somebody that's far away. So those are the resources for players who travel internationally to compete in the case that they have to play against a hero or they're playing as hero. And it's more difficult for hero actually because he has to learn 21 words instead of just the 12 we mentioned before. But regardless, you see now that it's a simple and streamlined process that anyone can do. And trust me, international players, you might not be able to control Hero's Hocus Pocus and him getting invincible, but I can assure you that you can control your ability to body anybody regardless of what the language is. You just have to put in the time. It is 6:41 a.m. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed. So thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. Click the like button and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and outplay these men. Always. Peace.